what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 4 of Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria, and thanks for tuning in. So I can't believe I'm already on episode 4. I know I'm celebrating single digits, but basically with everything else going on, and most of that being trying to keep my sanity in this current American climate that we find ourselves in, I'm just glad that I'm staying consistent here. So a couple of things. I had to shuffle around some interviews with everybody trying to stay safe. Most of my interviews are done via Zoom. So I was supposed to have our good buddy Larry Davis on the show, but his feed didn't work really well, and he actually lost connection a couple times. Luckily, the next day, or the day before, I can't really remember, I had interviewed another great drummer friend of mine, Ryan Hamme. And we're gonna bump him ahead. So he's now on episode 4. I think he thought he was gonna be later down the line, but due to technical difficulties, he gets jumped up a little bit. So not too shabby for him, I guess. So we'll get to that interview in a bit. I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. Ryan's a great young musician who's kind of recently gone out there in the professional world. He's I can't remember now, but he went to Purchase. He went to WestCon. I met him when he was in high school, so I've had a lot of years to get to know Ryan. And not only a sweet guy, an excellent drummer. We work together regularly, and we're working together regularly before shutdown. So, we just catch up. It's actually kind of been like the first time we talked in a while. So I'm really happy that I could share that conversation with you guys. But of course, let's get the business out of the way. Mr. Millennial's Revenge is part of the New Haven Jazz Underground, a grassroots community-based organization dedicated to putting on concerts, clinics, and jam sessions in the great city of New Haven, Connecticut. We're a little on the, paused side because of everything going on, but we are slowly coming back. And we are completely crowdfunded. And right now, we are still raising money so that when things are safe again and reopened, we can hit the ground running and put on some great shows for you. We're still going to be presenting our Mind the Hang series. We've just kind of downsized to once a month, just with everybody not only handling being safe and trying to socially distance themselves and every all the protocols aside. Everyone's got a lot of things going on, and most of that is learning how to work and learn in this day and age. So the next one is actually this coming Thursday, October 29th, at the LA Center for Contemporary Art in New Haven. It is featuring my band Wired, my electric sextet. You could see me on trumpet with Conrad Zemian on alto saxophone, Tom Keene on guitar, Andrew Kasiba on Fender Rhodes, Andrew Zwart on electric bass, and Avery Collins on drums. And we'll be playing tunes from the album Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm really excited. This band has not played together since pre-COVID in any way, shape, or form. We had some gigs lined up in the spring, and of course, they didn't have them. So I'm super excited to be presenting my own band, my original music. I hope you guys can tune in. You can check that out at facebook.com/NHVJU. We'll be live streaming it. But part of what makes the Mind the Hang series so great is that we are able to pay the musicians who perform. So I'll be able to compensate the band, rightfully so, and that is all through crowdfunding. It's a beautiful thing. Our lowest tier is for $2 a month, and I hope that you can sign up for at least that. We do have $5, $10, and $20, and again, it all goes to what we are doing here at the Underground. So please consider becoming a patron, and you can do that at patreon.com/NHVJU. So, guys, I finally got to experience the haunted aisle. Remember a couple of weeks back, I was talking about my neighbor telling me that across the salt marsh behind my house is the trolley museum, and they do a haunted maze kind of thing. And the last couple of weeks, I've been seeing a lot of flashlights, a lot of orange, red, yellow, blue, black lights, twinkling across the marsh. And a couple nights ago, I actually heard people screaming, which was fun. I was like, yes, finally. It's very eerie, even knowing that it's just for laughs over there. It was fun to just kind of be like, Halloween. They can't take it away from us. But we went. I took the wife. We went last Friday night, and it was fun. Your classic. You're going through this like plywood maze that everything's a room, and it's decorated, and it's got themes, and there's live actors, right? And I'm sure you've been to something similar. They're all over the place. They're always fun. And, my wife was squeezing my hand so hard, she almost broke my wrist. I swear to God. I had to like take her to the side to be like, okay, now stand on this side. I promise to keep you safe, but, you're going to break my thumb off. The only thing about it is we went at 10 o'clock, which was the last, showing, the last tour of the night. So the actors were definitely at the end of what was most definitely a long night. And a lot of them were doing their best to keep the energy up. But what was kind of funny was with socially distancing, we were letting the group ahead of us keep their distance, take their time, and then we would go through the next room. That group was taking too long. Like everything was, when you're like mini golfing in the fucking group in front of you is taking too long, and you're like, for crying out loud, just come on, let's do it. It was like that, but the problem was the actors could only they must have only been able to get out of the exhibit or the maze or the whatever by walking through it. So as we're waiting for the next group, you could see like the witch, the zombie, the murderers, all the characters, the guy dressed as Jigsaw. They've got their backpacks over one shoulder. They're like itching to light a cigarette. Like, and I get it, man. And I felt so bad, but I was like, can you guys just stay one diorama away from us? Just give us a couple of minutes. We'll be out of here as soon as we can. I understand you've probably worked your day job and then did this, but come on, you got to keep up the appearance for us. We're still ticket holders, damn it, But no, overall it was great. If there's any room this coming week, I recommend it. I think it was a lot of fun. And, there's only so many things you could do to stay sane in this day and age, and that's one of them. So I'm really glad. I'm really glad we did that, and I feel like I've concluded a chapter of a theme that I've been talking about on the show. Is this haunted trolley ride from across my backyard? So I'm glad I could finally share it with you guys. Another thing I'm really excited to share with you guys, and something a little bit more on the sentimental side, is I got to have a Zoom lesson with my mentor, the one and only Dr. Eddie Henderson. If you're going to listen to this podcast, you're going to hear his name all the time. I've been studying with Eddie for the last 17 years, since 2003, and in more recent years, I would just take a lesson with him in the summertime, drive out to his place. And I always joked it was like, my annual doctor's visit because puns, right? But, with COVID, I couldn't do it, obviously. And he is an elderly gentleman, and it's just too risky. So, we waited. I found out that he was able to teach via Zoom because he teaches at Oberlin. So set up a lesson, and man, like wonderful, just absolutely wonderful. Our lessons these days are mostly just bullshitting for like an hour and a half. Like he continues to tell me these insane stories. All good, even if they are insane. Just about musicians, some of the greats that we know and love. Like the man knows everybody, I should say. My favorite stories are all the antics he got into with the Wandichi band, or from studying with or hanging out with, Lee Morgan, Woody Shaw, Freddie Hubbard, Miles, all the greats, man. I mean, it's just he's been a endless supply of knowledge, and it's incredible. When I was younger, I would take lessons with him, and he has this syllabus, and he would say, he'd turn a page and be like, okay, this is what Lee Morgan taught me, right? And you're like, oh, okay, let me learn this immediately. Following page, this is what Freddie Hubbard taught me. Oh, okay, and you'd shed this stuff, and it always kept me grounded because, I feel like I've been talking about vibing and how musicians can be assholes to each other. But it's like anytime I ever felt like a musician was treating me poorly or misjudging me, we'll say, I always just kept in mind, like, man, I'm shedding what I can shed. And I learned it from Eddie, who learned it from Miles Davis. And it's like, well, what more could you ask for? Like what more reassurance? So he's always been my rock. Let's say that, and, I wouldn't be the person I am. I wouldn't be the musician I am without him. So it was just super cool to have a lesson with him, even if it was over Zoom. Guy's still showing me new tricks. It was great. Just to share, I met him by chance. I didn't know who he was until I was basically face to face with him. When I was a freshman in college, there was no jazz trumpet teacher yet. They would hire one my sophomore or junior year. I couldn't remember which, but for at least my first year at college, I could only take classical lessons. So parallel to that, that is the period of time where I became obsessed with buying CDs. People were still buying CDs back then. This is the early O's. And Borders. Borders still reigned supreme in the bookstore industry. And the one in Danbury, Connecticut was killing. I mean, it had everything that you can want, especially those Blue Notes. The RVG series was happening around this time. So it was, all the Blue Notes that were released, were being re-released, mastered, put on CD, and they were pretty cheap. They were only like around $10-12. So like I would save all my money, and I would, from my job, and I'd spend like half of it at Borders that weekend and bought CDs. So I became like really obsessed with buying things in order of release. And so I bought, became obsessed with Herbie Hancock. I bought The Prisoner, I bought Sextant, and I bought Thrust, like all in one visit, right? And I had never heard of Thrust. I had never heard of Sextant, but I had heard of Thrust, obviously being, the Headhunters band. And I'm looking at the date, and and Sextant came out in 1973, and I was like, I think Headhunters also came out in 73, 74, around the same time period. But I'm looking at the band, and it's a significantly different lineup. It's 7 guys. You got Benny Maupin, who I recognized from Headhunters, but you got Billy Hart on drums. You got Buster Williams on bass. That's different. Because on Headhunters, I think it's like Harvey Mason, right, on drums, and then Mike Clark on thrust. And I'm like, oh shit! Like this is not the same. This is not the same band. And then there was a trumpet player, Eddie Henderson. And I would be remiss if I missed Julian Priester on trombone and Pat Gleason on synthesizer. But besides the point, I saw Eddie Henderson trumpet, and I was like, oh shit! I wonder if this album is like Headhunters, but like now there's a trumpet on it. That's cool. I want to check that out. So went back to the dorm, popped it in, and if you are not familiar with Sextant, let me just tell you that it is the only way you can sum it up in a short period of time is space funk music. funk music from outer space. That's better. It was weird. I was just not ready for it yet. Like, my freaking ears, to quote Todd Flanders. But I became obsessed with it because I wanted to like it. I was like, man, this sounds weird to me, but there must be something I'm not getting. So let me just keep diving into it. And I did, and I did, and I did. And sure enough, second semester comes around, and we have our spring jazz festival, and one of the clinicians is Eddie Henderson. And right before the festival started and he arrived, I asked, is Eddie Henderson the same as Dr. Eddie Henderson? And I remember my teacher going, well, probably, And so sure enough, he came to Western Connecticut. He was in the middle of his clinic, and I was blown away by it. And at the end of the clinic, I asked him, I said, I know this sounds like a dumb question, but are you're Dr. Eddie Henderson, right? Because, maybe there's Eddie Henderson, then Dr. Eddie Henderson. He clarified that he was. And I said, okay, so are you the same Dr. Eddie Henderson who's on Sextant by Herbie Hancock? And he said, yes. And I was like, okay, can I talk to you? And I started chewing his ear off, and he seemed to be enjoying it. And then I asked if I could take lessons with him, and that's how it started. I would go to his house like every other month or every month, and just would shed, and he would teach me all the things that he knew and learned from all the greats throughout his 60-ish year career. And I've always been grateful for it. So he just turned 81 years old on the 26th. He makes it look good. What can I say? He is a sweet man. He is a kind man. He is a original player. There really isn't anyone who sounds like him. It's kind of insane. I love his approach. I feel like I'm going to do more little tidbits about him, but what I love about his approach is that he's got more of a post-bop impression on things than, say, a bebop one, and I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail and tweets and death threats for saying that, but that's cool to me. He has more of a modal approach to harmony, which I dig, and fuck, man, nobody sounds like him. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. He sounds like him, which is, and he sounds like a combination of Freddie, Lee Morgan, and Miles pushed into one, with his own take on things. And it's really incredible that he's still with us and still making music. He just released an album this year called Shuffle and Deal. Please check it out. It is so fucking good. And I wrote my master's thesis about the Wandishi Band. I'm obsessed. They are probably the most inspirational musical group in my life. So many of my songs are based on ideas that I get from listening to Herbie's group. And whenever I go back to composing, I listen to those records to get the gears turning. A lot of my music is directly inspired by the Wandishi Band, and Herbie and Eddie and everything that group was doing. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. So anyway, had a great lesson with him. It was awesome to catch up, and it's just nice to be able to chalk up something great, that's going on in this day and age, because we got an election in 9 days or something like that, and man, it's like I had enough anxiety as it is. Now it's like I'm trying to keep that possible bad news from getting to the forefront. So anyway, if you don't know Eddie Henderson, check out his music. Drop me a line if you want some recommendations. He does have a really good discography, and he, a very consistent player, which is awesome. And you can't go wrong if you just pick something at random and check it out. So check out Eddie. And to Eddie, if you ever end up hearing this, thank you so much, man. I love you, and I feel so grateful to be your student. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do a podcast is I'm a podcast junkie, right? And one of the podcasts that inspires me is Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. If you don't know this podcast, you got to check it out, because it's just Conan interviewing people that he knows, and it's incredible. I've always been a huge fan of Conan O'Brien. I saw his late night show twice live, and incredible experience. I got to talk to Mark Pender, the trumpet player in the band, both times, which is killing. He phenomenal lead player. It was just a once in a lifetime experience, and I'm so grateful that I got to do it. And Conan's comedy is, I'm sure you can imagine, up my alley. He was a writer on SNL and The Simpsons. He wrote some of the most famous episodes. The monorail episode, for instance, comes to mind. That's Conan. So if that's your kind of humor, which is my kind of humor, then you understand. So keeping that in mind, that's kind of like the vibe I wanted for this show. Like I wanted to be able to talk to friends. So that leads me to my guest, Ryan. I first met Ryan Hamme, the drummer. He's based in New York City and Connecticut. I met him when he was in high school. He came to a jam session that I was hosting by a mutual friend who is my friend and his teacher at the time, John Blank, the great tenor saxophonist. And John would bring his students to my sessions, and I'd let them sit in, and it was great. And it's been awesome to watch Ryan literally develop as a young musician. In the last couple of years, he's been behind the drum kit on my gigs. He is one of my favorite drummers to work with. I feel like trumpet players and drummers, that's like a special relationship. I think that's a thing. Like there's something about it where like almost all of my closest friends seem to be percussionists in some way. So even my buddy Andrew Zwart, who's one of my absolute best friends, who's a bassist, is a drummer and a drumline instructor as well. So it's like there's that connection there. So it must be a thing. Trumpeters and drummers. And my father-in-law is a drummer, so it's like there must be, and we get along, and so there must be something there. But so over the years, Ryan has become a fantastic, well-rounded drummer. He's always surprising me whenever we talk about what are you listening to. He's always throwing out stuff that like puts a smile on my face. Whether it's like a more obscure Coltrane record or something in the neo soul vein or whatever, it's pretty great. And absolutely the best thing we talk about is nerdy shit. We talk about Star Wars all the time. He's a Dungeons and Dragons fan. I'm a Magic the Gathering fan. Like we never run out of nerdy shit to talk about, which we will hear in the podcast on this episode. So this is a really casual conversation. I'm just glad to catch up with him. And him and his girlfriend are doing well, and you get to hear a bunch about that in the interview. So, without further ado, I present to you my conversation with drummer and good buddy Ryan Hamme. So, despite the fact I have talked to you the most since quarantine has started, this is in fact the first time I've seen your face in like 8 months.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
so
crazy.
I mean, it's fun to see everyone's quarantine look. You seem to have you got like you let the hair out. You usually have like a high and tight look. You got the curls on the side there, man. So
I got like Krusty the Clown going on.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. For a while, I had like Farrah Fawcett like wings growing out from the back because normally I have it shaved back here. Buzzed down to a zero, and I didn't get a haircut from February until late June. So it was like longest it had been since I was probably in college or high school. It was crazy. So
it's nice to like kind of let it flow, just let the whole thing hang out, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of almost like of solidarity, I guess. But then I feel bad because like my poor barber, like he's suffering too. So I got to make sure that I go and get a haircut.
Yeah. Especially I have like curly hair, so
right, same.
It's a lot of people. Yeah, there you go. So a lot of people. It's tough to cut curly hair. You got to find your guy or your lady.
Yes. I
to
agree.
get the job done.
Yeah. Sure. I'm glad that my barber is like a solid 7 or 8 years younger than me. So like theoretically speaking, if we just die of old age, he'll be around the whole time I'm around. That's basically how I've like convinced myself, in my head. And I'm like, well, I still got my hair. So I'll keep him around, and we'll go from there. But if I lose it all, I'll make sure to still send him a Christmas card or something, I guess.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
So how you doing, man? It's been a minute since I talked to you.
Definitely.
Aside from our phone calls and stuff, but we'll get to what you're doing now. But how you doing, man? It's been a mile. Been a minute.
Pretty good. I think the challenge is just staying on the path.
Yeah.
And like dealing with these rapid changes. But I'm managing to keep busy.
Good.
I'm glad to have had some time to like practice.
Yeah.
If there's any like good thing, I'm glad that I got time in on the drums. It's kind of like things have had the chance to settle, for sure.
Yeah, I was. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, and checking out a lot of music. That's for sure. Listening to a lot of different stuff outside the world of bebop and just being open to everything. And I just moved back to Shelton, Connecticut from the Bronx, as you know.
Yeah.
By the way, moving is a drag. Oh my
Sucks.
God.
I moved too.
It's the worst. Yeah, so you have like a house, like your shit.
I moved 15 minutes, but it felt like I was chopping a finger off every time I had, because we didn't want to get a moving truck or anything. So, we have a Nissan Rogue and a Chevy Cruze. So like we filled those, which doesn't take long. A couple of boxes in my car and I got to go back. So it was like, there wasn't just one move. It was like a lot of moves, and then even still I had one box truck come and there were still like a lot of small things, and we wanted to make sure we got that security deposit, so we went back and scrubbed the place, to make sure it's perfect, because you need every fucking dollar you can get. Moving
drag,
sucks,
man.
It sucks when there's not a pandemic. Moving
exactly. It's like, and I lived in like a first floor walk up, right? So it wasn't terrible, but there's one set of stairs, man. Moving like everything I own up and down one set of stairs. Just like it killed us, me and Brooke. I mean, we were like, by the end we were like, let's get out of here.
Right. You're just like kicking shit down those stairs, right? Making the mad dash.
I was like, I don't give a shit if it breaks.
I know.
Fuck it, we're throwing it away. Just leave it.
I know. I almost legit threw a box that said Nick's like treasured Christmas decoration, do not break, because it's like this ceramic Christmas tree that I love, and it's like, I would have opened it up and been fucking so sad about that, but at the moment I was like, we got to get the fuck out of here right now. But that also had to do with the fact that like I had a lot of neighbors in my building that were not taking COVID seriously, and you could tell just by their actions. And we had people who were a little too comfortable, even though we were just neighbors, in the building. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, if we get COVID, it's going to be because of her. Like, the one that goes through everyone's mail, she does deliver it to everybody. And that I do appreciate, but I'm like, come on, ma'am, please stay indoors. You need to stay indoors.
Right. Yeah, just wear gloves or something. Or the mask.
Right.
Just take the precaution. That's all it is. Take the precaution.
Yeah. But I know what you're saying. I was talking to Rose on the show a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how everyone's diving back into their fundamentals, their technical studies. She was playing Bach inventions, I think she mentioned, and it's like, man, I started working out of some of the biblical trumpet books that that you devote your life to when you're, especially in college. And not that I don't play out of them, regularly enough, but this was like the first time in a very long time where the only thing I was focused on was like this technical, fundamental approach to playing the horn, and or like just getting around the facility of playing the instrument. I've learned one new tune since March, and up till March I was learning like 2 tunes a week. Because we're working. I mean, luckily enough, I mean, I'm very grateful to say I was working so much that like I needed to learn new tunes just to keep things stimulating. And now And now it's like I'm either relearning everything because I can't even believe I forgot some of this stuff, or I just wasn't. There was no need to, because if you're not playing, there's no sense in some ways. I
Right.
mean, you
Exactly.
could argue that, but you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
so when I say like, hey, what are you up to, and the person's like, well, I've just been like shedding. Yeah, that's fine. I remember we talked earlier during the lockdown, and I asked how you were doing. And you were like, I don't know, man. I feel kind of funny, and I'm not motivated. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, go binge all the Alien and Predator movies. Like, there's no
Right.
reason
Right.
to be upset. Like, we're
Right.
all just kind of hanging out here.
Right. Well, that's the other thing I was going to mention was, so it was hard to, but I think we've kind of found the balance between like working on your stuff and then taking a break. I've
Mm-hmm.
spent more time like checking out other shit, right? More than I have in probably like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
While also just like coming back and enjoying this thing. I'm like sitting across from my drum, so I keep gesturing to it.
Right.
But like beyond that, like spending time with my family. I think I've told you about this, but we play Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah. No.
once a week.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So but anyway, so I'm coming back now, and I'm on kind of a break from the drum set, and I'm doing some writing.
Nice.
I got back from Bar Harbor. I went to Bar Harbor like
Okay.
2 weeks ago. Bar Harbor,
Oh,
Maine.
okay. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
Acadia National Park.
Yeah. Yeah. Been up there. Yeah.
And it's a great like reset button. Like
Yeah.
as much hardship. Nobody can say that this has not been a tough year. But I try to like look on kind of I'm trying to look on the more positive side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like if if you could take anything from this, like we got some time to reset,
Yeah.
Just trying to avoid the whole like the gloom of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was talking. I've mentioned this a couple of times. I was supposed to get married in July, and for a year and a half, I was taking every gig I could get to pay for it. And I said on one of the episodes that the lockdown forced me to take the break I was never going to take, because I was constantly hustling, and I already have this like hustle mentality to begin with. Right. And yeah, it's led me to pursue other things, slow down, take a breath, man. I think a lot of us needed that, very much so. I mean, I feel like everyone knows that mental health is important, but now it's like, okay, motherfucker, there's no way of getting around it. You need to self-care. Like,
That's right.
Is the chance to do it. And I saw that I saw that a lot in the people who didn't try to pursue performing. Like in the early days, people were trying to put on like Zoom concerts and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's all cool and everything, but like, honestly, maybe we should just take this time to fucking reset. You don't need to be performing, because like, I don't mind the online concert where the band's in one room and there's no audience. That's one thing. But like the Zoom concerts, I felt like it was fighting against the natural order of what we were going through. And it's like, look, like, I get it. I'm suffering. We're all suffering, but let's just take a step back. And for some reason, even if you're like a jazz musician who doesn't live in New York City, jazz is a very like urban kind of music. It requires a denser population almost, or at least that's basically what it is. So the best thing for a jazz musician is to go to the sticks, go to those parks, state parks, national parks, get out of the greater metropolitan areas that we usually congregate, because it helps us relax. Like Adam Suchesky, our buddy, the great drummer, I mean, his Instagram all summer long, I would check his story, and like, it was these beautiful campsites and cabins. And I'm just like, I would write to him and be like, where is this? So I can like make a mental note, because I need to do this too.
Right.
And I mean, I'm lucky that I have this marsh behind my house, and that's been like my sanctuary,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I have my parents' place. I live right next to, it's called Jones's Tree Farm, right? This is like I think it's like a 200 or 400 acre tree farm, like Christmas trees, right?
Yeah.
And it is, except for December, it is completely, it's like total isolation, right? So I walk the dog there every day.
Yeah.
I try to run there, and even that is like it's just nice to have something like that by where you live.
You know what's funny? Yeah, absolutely. Something about owning a tree farm sounds like the greatest thing to do in the world. Like I think when I've put in my 30 years in the city and I want to slow down, I am going to retire from teaching and look into tree farming, I guess is what it's called.
Yeah,
like talk
I guess
about
that's what it is.
I mean, your business is only once a year, but I think if you have a tree farm, you've got other projects going on most likely.
Well, they have a winery and strawberries. Yeah, they have the whole.
But I want to be at a point in my life where all I care about is the trees. So I spent 11 months of the year just strolling through these acres and acres of evergreen trees and blue spruces. 1 month of the year, I'm making loot, hand over fist, and then I just go back to my fir and evergreen sanctuary. That just sounds it sounds super relaxing. A lot of plaid and flannel wearing. I could picture myself with a thermos, that seems like the dream for me,
Yeah,
so that's really cool that you got that nearby.
Yeah, man, it's funny you just mentioned self-care and mental health, and I think it's kind of a good thing that we've gotten to this point, because in jazz music, at least from my perception, some of the old school stuff, it's kind of like we don't talk about that, like, at least, I mean, that could be my perception, and other people have experienced different things, but like there's this kind of macho attitude about it, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like a lot of guys are more just like, we'll feel it out, and I don't know, let the music, kind of help heal those wounds, whatever they may be.
Sure.
But I think we're kind of seeing how it never gets talked about, like your mental well-being within playing music. Like, it's already such a niche thing. Like, what do we do? We're jazz musicians, or just musicians in general, right?
Yeah, you don't even have to use the word jazz. We're just musicians, right?
Right, exactly. And there's so much beauty and importance in what we do, but it's not always the easiest thing. Like anybody who has like this, creative process, from musicians, any sort of artist, to I think even athletes deal with this sort of thing. And now we've kind of, like I said, the reset button's been hit, but we're almost forced, right? Because of the lack of work. Everybody's got to reinvent some form of themselves.
Right.
And I think
who are you going to be?
Exactly.
Or like, who are you? Yeah. Who are you?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, like this, for me, like how long has this been? It feels like decades since we've been locked away.
I know.
But
I think it's 8 months now. Yeah. It's 8 months.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
And like,
maybe almost 9.
Like the amount of like introspection,
sure,
it's crazy, and it's good and bad, but it's mostly good, I think.
I would, I think the thing is that musicians are blessed and cursed at the same time. It's because our passion is our work and our work is our passion, and because of that, we get tied up in just that, and all of the greats, all the people that we idolize, all had other things going on in their life. Like the easiest example is Miles, right? Miles, read his autobiography. He talks about cooking. He talks about boxing. He took time away from the horn, away from everything else, and hit the speed bag or sparred at the gym. Coltrane had his hobbies, and he very public, I guess publicly, but like he was very open about studying Eastern philosophy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Eddie Henderson was a figure skater at one point,
right.
and he was very athletic, and you can go on and on and on. And Herbie was into all kinds of gadgets and stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, but the thing is that, like, it's never stressed upon us. It's never brought to our attention at an early age to pursue other things. And part of that is you will only have so much time in college to get your act together, and most of us don't until after college anyway.
Right. Yeah,
so it's almost right. So it's almost like it's almost like like a good professor would say, look, you're not going to accomplish these things anyway in these 4 years. So you might as well start building model airplanes. You might as well start, skateboarding or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you have an interest aside from music, you should nurture it at the same time, because one definitely feeds the other. And also, you can't practice, you can't shed 18 hours a day. The human brain is not able to do it. And I know there are I'm sure someone's gonna like text me later and be like, Nate Smith, he sheds 18 hours a day, and listen to him. And it's like, yeah, he's amazing, but he's probably most definitely in the minority as opposed to the rest of us. It's like 18 hours a day. When do you have time to go fucking grocery shopping, dude? Like, come on.
Right.
Right. So let's not fool ourselves here is basically it. But yeah, I love when you bring up Dungeons and Dragons, because you and I are very nerdy people. I think a lot of musicians are. My favorite thing about Wayne Shorter, everyone has like their favorite Wayne album, their favorite Wayne tune. Of course, my favorite Wayne tidbit is that he's like a huge sci-fi nerd, and a lot of his stuff is inspired by science fiction. And I learned that in his autobiography, and it's like, oh fuck yes, dude, I have a song written about the robots in Battlestar Galactica. I get it.
Right.
I get it, man. Like, we all have our interests. So you and I have always talked about, the nerdy stuff. You were talking about playing Dungeons and Dragons with your fam, and that's super cool. I spent quarantine learning how to play Magic the Gathering, because
you were telling me about that.
I've always wanted to learn how to play, and I would never take the time away from the hustle to learn or to go, because like before pandemic, people would play at card shops on Friday nights. It's like, I'm gonna be playing a gig. I'm not gonna give up a gig. I'm not gonna give up one of my residencies to go play Magic the Gathering. But now, with no residencies, you can do it, and it has been such a welcome breath of fresh air. Because you and I play chess.
Yes.
I'm a chess. Oh, good. I know. I've been meaning to challenge you again. Yeah. But Magic, I found Magic to be very similar to chess in many ways. So it feels mentally stimulating, just in a different format, which is nice, because the music it's filling the void of that intellectual side of the music for sure.
Right.
So,
it's kind of interesting. Like the flip side of all this is, we're not playing a whole lot of gigs right now, but I've had a couple chances to play, and it's like between, I don't know, the last 3 months and March, I feel like a different person playing the drums.
Sure.
I feel like the fire is there, not that it was necessarily gone or anything, but it's like I'm feeling it. Like the ideas can come out. Like, we all deal with anxiety, but like I've never felt so fresh and like on it. Maybe like a little rusty with some of the
the
more like, I worked on this a long time ago.
Yeah.
But man, it's coming back to it, and that's the thing. Like, this is like, because I went from like March to July without playing a gig.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, that's not what we're meant to do. Like people like, musicians, this is like our lifeblood. It's like going to work. It's like telling like many Americans right now, like, well, you can't go to work. So people have kind of lost their way, but coming back to that is like a blessing.
They lost their routine even. I mean, that's what's driving my wife crazy, is she's like, I just didn't realize how much I needed the drive to and from work, because it was my time she loves driving with the radio off.
Yes.
And just letting her
it's
brain.
Meditative.
Yeah, it is. It's very zen
meditative.
Of her. And and she's like, man, I miss that, I think, the most. Just the morning commute, the evening commute, just for that like 20 minutes of silence and almost, that zoning out we do when we're driving, but paying attention, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of what practicing recently has become for me is that meditative state, because like, you know, I've put like social media limits on my phone. I mean, you know me, I never post anything, but I see it, like I'm a lurker, as they
Oh,
say.
sure.
I see it, so all I see is like strife, people dying, the election, and it's like constant, like existential crisis, you
Yeah.
know. But like if you can come in here, right, you can come to your practice room and start to just work on something, like that's always going to be there, you know what I mean? So like that, it's nice, man, that the scales of, I feel like they're kind of tipping out a little bit as
I
far
think
as that goes,
I
you
think
know.
a lot of us were reminded of why we do it. And I think that's
Yeah.
why, it's like I've only played a handful of gigs since July, but they've all been really great. They've all been
Yes.
really sweet. They've all
Yeah.
been very fulfilling. And I think it's like, oh, this gig, it represents why we do what we do. It's like, it's
Right.
almost like it's like all the gigs I've had since the summer have been a reminder of what's more important. It's the chemistry, it's the creative
Yes, it's
side.
not about getting paid, man. It's about play. It's about
And
being with people.
right. And that's what, me, that's what I've always preached. It's like, I understand it's hard, but it's like, you need to find that job that pays the bills, that
Right.
keeps the music as your as your saving grace, as your way
Yeah.
out, your meditative and creative output. And that's why I'm lucky that like I can, I enjoy teaching, so it doesn't
Right.
drive me
Yeah.
nuts.
Absolutely.
And it's like, because there's that joy. And it's funny too, man, because a lot of the gigs, because of the economic situation, a lot of the gigs aren't paying well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you call somebody up and you go, look, I finally got a gig. It's on this bar's patio. It's going to be this time to this time. It only pays this much, but you get a few
Right.
free beers. And like every time, the other person on the person on the other line is like, don't even bother telling me the details. I'm just excited that you called me, that I get to do
Right.
this,
Right. Right.
and yeah, it's like, I hope when this is gone, we remember that. We remember what was most important about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everything else aside, because it's like, by saying this doesn't mean I'm saying like, the music isn't serious, it's not a profession, it's not
Absolutely.
anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Don't take it like that.
one,
Right.
right, one does not mean the other,
Right. Right.
but I hope that we remember the reason why we do this.
Right. Well, I think, I don't want to like downplay that. Like we all have to know our worth.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to know. But I just think like I don't know. Like I think we're all guilty of like, I don't know, taking a gig that you weren't super psyched about, but you're like,
Sure.
oh, well, it pays well, which is
Right.
good. I mean, we should do
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
should all do that,
Yeah.
But I think it's, at least for me recently, it's been like, well, you know what? Like I'm really doing this because I want to, which is like,
Sure.
it's not always that way. Sometimes you're like, oh, and you see that in a lot of people, because it is like what we love, but it's also our job, and you have to treat
Yeah.
it like a job.
Well, it's
Your
okay
job.
to love your job. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it is.
People should be
Yes.
pursuing a career that they love, and then you won't be so pissed off all the time. Like, yeah,
Right.
do I hate getting up early in the morning to go to a school and with the kids? Yes, it can be very, very, it's not exactly what, I'm not a morning person like that. It's hard.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not like, man, the city pays me to play the piano and sing, or the city pays me to play recorder with a bunch of kids for a few hours. It could be worse. And luckily I've had shitty jobs, so I can remember when it was like, oh no, that's what a shitty job is. So at least I'm doing music. Like, yeah, like I wish I was shedding these bebop tunes, but it's like I'm block chording my way through some folk song with a bunch of third graders. Like,
Right.
that's still pretty great in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And it's like, it's going to be different for everybody. I think everybody has to find their balance.
Sure. Absolutely.
Like jazz musicians, we all love to like preach our way and be like, this is the way. But eventually you realize like everybody's preaching something different,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not like a bad thing. That's just because everybody has their thing that works for them. And you got to find your balance that works for you. That's what it is.
Well, no, you're right. And that's the greatest challenge. That's the greatest challenge just in just being a human, is finding your way finding what works for you, unlocking that inner bodhisattva, that inner Buddha kind of stuff.
Right.
That's what that's about. It's opening up your potential and accepting of your situation and stuff. And I think most people spend their whole lives and never find it, unfortunately. But it's obtainable. It's easy to get to,
Definitely.
So, but yeah, man. Things aside, what do you check? I was asking Rose this. What are you checking out these days? So you were talking about. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. Sure. This in the fall, I always check out classical music. I always come back to classical music for some reason. I don't know why. It's just something I do. But definitely with lockdown, in the absence of gigs, man, I got back into the non-jazz stuff that I love. So I've been listening to like the Stooges. I've been listening to the Ramones. I've been listening to like early proto punk bands, that stuff that I haven't been listening to in a while because I never have time for it. Because I'm always checking, what's the newest Marquise Hill album doing,
Right.
So yeah, I forget to go back and listen to like Rocket to Russia, which is still a fucking killing album, even after nearly 40 years now, So it's like, been digging that stuff. I got into the Yusuf Days stuff a lot.
Oh yeah. He just did something. What's it called? Shit, I forget the name of it. He just released with Tom.
Yep. On Blue Note. What's it called? Yeah. I'm looking it up right now because I fucking forgot it too.
Yeah.
I'm always terrible with any kind of album and song names. So bad. Album names is a little bit easier. It's called What Kind of Music.
What Kind of Music? Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it was good. I liked that. Yeah.
But
that was early in the summer, right?
Yes. Yeah. Been digging that. And then Kamal Williams, they play together as Yusuf Kamal. Kamal Williams is like he probably wishes his destiny is to become Herbie Hancock of the 70s, and I feel like he's trying his best to get there. That's fine. I appreciate it as a huge Herbie fan. That's cool with me. So I've been checking out those guys, and yeah, man, just like it's okay to go a couple of days and not listening to jazz and just checking out other stuff.
Sure.
A big audiobook fan, so I've been like ripping through all kinds of stuff that way.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of it's more of that reset, man. You gotta clean the palate once in a while.
Definitely. As far as I guess like my reset for that, there's a couple records. There's Greg Gisbert Harkology. Am I allowed to say these? Can I say? I can say that, right? We're not gonna get like shut down or anything.
What
record names?
Record? No, why?
That's fine. Oh, I don't know, but like there's all these copyright laws and
I think like so. Here's the deal. I think as long as I don't play recorded music,
I see.
Because what's funny is I just won my copyright claim with
I heard you talking
about
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So YouTube flagged me because I used the show's theme song, and I had to put in like a claim that it was okay for me to use it. And my claim was that I own it, and there wasn't really much to it. Lo and behold, like a week ago, I got like the official notification that CD Baby was okay with me using my music, and I was like, oh, fair enough. So
yeah,
I would love to play, especially like if you had like a tune that had come out and you were on the show because we were like talking about your new album or something. I would love to be able to play snippets of it, but I don't even know how that works. And the thing is that like I love doing this. I really do, but I don't have the motivation to like really get good at like editing and producing this podcast. Like that's why it's on YouTube, because it's so much easier to just upload it there.
For sure.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just being lazy. Don't give a shit.
Like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, they're crazy with that. Like
it works.
YouTube YouTube with their copyright striking is insane. It's funny, actually. I mentioned this is like ridiculous record, the Lewis Nash Quintet live.
The one we know. The one we
like. Yeah. So with
live
like
in
Jimmy
Newport.
Green, Jeremy Pelt, and so that's like always a go-to. That one's gonna be But anyway, so I was talking about I was like, can you play that for our episode? And you were like, oh, they're gonna strike me down. But so there's that. I mentioned Greg Gisbert Harkology, right? This I'm on this Greg Hutchinson thing right now.
Okay.
So we got him. We got the Ray Brown Trio live at Scholars. This record's insane, dude.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I'm gonna get it ready on my. I'm listening. I'm just putting it on my
Sure.
Spotify.
Let me think. Hank Jones, A Talented Touch. That's a little more old school.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been checking. That's a good one. As far as away from like jazz and bebop type stuff, I've been listening to a lot of soundtracks from like movies,
Okay.
games, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because I'm really into that sort of thing, and I've been trying. Like it's been like kind of this like I don't know like pipe dream type thing for me to try to write a movie soundtrack. So I've been like on and off over the last couple of years, and I'm starting to kind of get back into that a little bit. I stink
sick.
at it, but it's like, but it's fun, and there's so much inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so much stuff you can draw from.
Yeah.
So anything from like I don't know, Jeremy Soule or Hans Zimmer, John Williams, who's it? Howard Shore, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy probably has the best movie soundtrack. And you know, funny thing, we're talking about Jeremy Pelt. I believe he went to Berkeley for film scoring.
Yes.
And somebody told me that he knows more film soundtracks than anybody in the world.
So I text him. Basically, he's accepted the fact that like he can't get rid of me, you know, because our relationship
Right.
our relationship started out as definitely me fanboying, and now now I like to think we're friends. And it's funny that you bring up soundtracks because in my classical music listening phase right now, a lot of it is soundtracks because I posted online that the best American classical music is soundtracks. And when I posted that, it was the soundtrack to Psycho, the original Psycho.
Okay, yeah.
And he had responded with, if you like that, you need to listen to it's the soundtrack to Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
And I was like, oh man, good timing
the
because of the time of year we're in. This is great.
Yeah,
I should be listening to it. And I forgot how good it was because I hadn't seen the movie in forever.
Right.
You know? So it was funny, and we were talking about soundtracks for a little bit. One of my favorites is Bernard Herrmann's Psycho. Like I'll send it to you. Because it's Hitchcock movies have great soundtracks. And even, it's funny, even a lot of James Bond movies have really great themes in them. And I think they're all done by John Barry, or like most of them are done by John Barry, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
John Barry, if you're unfamiliar, John Barry definitely did the Sean Connery Bond films.
Okay. The best Bond films.
Yeah. And he did the soundtrack for Dances with Wolves, which
very cool.
Which a lot of people think was done by Copeland because it's very Copelandian in a way.
It's got the whole like the undiscovered world.
It's got the
theme.
It's got that Americana vibe to it.
Yeah, right.
Copeland, So yeah, man. That, and I love NES game soundtracks, man. Like I think I was, man, it might be on the show. Probably. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot on these episodes, but I have the Battletoads soundtrack on vinyl. It's so fucking good, dude. And even with the 8-bit sounds, it's great. But a lot of times you can find this stuff, especially with classic NES. You can find somebody playing it on piano. You know. Mm-hmm. And you're listening to a solo piano performance of Mega Man 2, and it's fucking killing. Right. Like it's still good.
Yeah.
So, but that's awesome. Soundtracks. Who's the guy that does? He did all the music for Game of Thrones, but I think he also did the music for Westworld and other HBO shows. Oh shit, what's that guy's name?
It's not Bear McCreary, is it?
No, Bear's great too. Bear did
I love him, man. I've been checking him out.
He did the Walking Dead and Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar.
He did both those. He did both those intros. Game of Thrones. I'm looking. Oh, I can't even say his name. I just always recognize it. Ramin Djawadi.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
I'm so sorry.
Good
Ladies and
composer though. I
gentlemen.
mean, that's an iconic like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
If I said Game of Thrones, you know who I'm talking about. He also
Yeah,
did the
absolutely.
he did the theme to Westworld. Great fucking stuff. And you know, it's his melodies are simple. Like maybe that's what it is. There's this John Williams vibe to it. Because John Williams, you know, it's always like, you know, I remember being in sight singing class, and it's like, you know, a perfect fifth or a perfect fourth. Always think of a John Williams song because that's
Right.
usually what it is. You know, if it's not Star Wars or Indiana Jones, it's E.T. You know,
Yeah.
you know. So, but that's great, man. I didn't know that about you, that you wanted to score. Like, you should totally pursue that. And in fact, my cousin told me that the Connecticut NPR show Where We Live is looking for a new theme song.
Oh, really?
There's a contest, so maybe you should look into that and enter it. You never know.
Yeah, I'd give it a try. I mean, a lot of it's funny. A lot of guys, like I was watching a Bear McCreary interview last night, and he's talking about how we're at a point now where, you know, you don't have to understand like one of the things I didn't really learn in school was orchestration, right? At least in that context. And he's like, you don't have to understand that anymore because you have like Logic, where you can just, if you have a good ear, you can put stuff together, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like an orchestral score, right? It could just be like a bunch of sounds. I don't know if have you listened to the Blade Runner 2049?
No,
That's
not
a Hans
yet.
Zimmer.
Okay.
First off,
Well, you brought up
great movie.
Okay, you brought up Hans Zimmer, and that's who I was going to bring up in response, because I'm pretty sure that I heard in an interview that Hans Zimmer actually doesn't even know how to read music.
Yeah, I think Bear McCreary said that. Yeah.
He composes completely like by ear, I guess, or like by like he's a percussionist by trade, I believe.
Something like that.
And he would just play into the keyboard, into software. It sounds nuts because he's been composing long before these programs existed, but there's got to be a way. He probably dictated it to somebody, maybe. I don't know, but I heard that, and I was like, that's insane. Because think of all the movies that Hans Zimmer has composed for. You know, this is what I love about this show is once we get on a subject, I could just, you know, look it up while we're talking. Film scores by Hans Zimmer. But yeah, go ahead.
So I think actually now I'm thinking it might be. Maybe it's Hans Zimmer and somebody else, I believe.
Could be Alan Silvestri, who's also pretty prolific. He's done a lot of movies. Famously did Back to the Future.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So anyways, the soundtrack is it's like sounds you would find. Do you know the program Omnisphere? It's like this big sound catalog. It's all like Omnisphere sounds, and it's great. It's super effective, and there's a lot of percussion involved in the whole thing. So what Bear McCreary was saying was that like you don't have to write, like if you take like the Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings stuff, right?
Sure.
That is like he's got a full orchestra and a choir, and it's all this like
singing Elvish and shit. Yeah,
and like sweeping melodies and but you can do that's great. Like I love that stuff. That's like amazing. I listen to that for fun. But you can have a different vision, right, and kind of pursue it without that sort of resource or even that set of skills, you know. And technology like Logic is like amazing, dude, for that sort of garage band or whatever you want to use, Ableton. It's amazing the stuff you can do. My girlfriend is actually she's producing music for somebody right now from New York, kind of like a singer-songwriter type thing, and she's like learning Ableton as she does it. And the stuff that you're able to do, even like she's learning how to sample, and like I'm not an expert at that at all. I don't know anything about it, to be honest.
The only one I'm good with, I'm okay with GarageBand, and that's the one I've been using. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
I hear you.
Definitely, but the stuff that she's able to do, and just through like sometimes a Google search, you know, there's like YouTube videos on how to do these things. You know what I mean? So it's pretty mind blowing to me what we can do with that sort of stuff. The other thing I did want to mention, I can't tell you who with and what it is.
Okay.
But
I can't tell you anything.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about it, but I might be on a record kind of soon.
Nice.
Yeah,
Like your own
yeah.
record or
Not
somebody
mine. No,
else's?
I'm a sideman. Friends of mine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be a piano trio, so it
Oh,
might be
wow.
interesting.
Look at
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
They'll give you a lot of chance to kind of spotlight, to be spotlit,
Right,
because
right.
with just the piano trio, I mean, it's just, there's more opportunity to hear you without
Definitely.
the other members of the band. That's great, man.
Yeah.
Well, whenever said project is declassified, let me know about it because
Okay.
I would love to
Yeah,
hear
it's
about
still kind of in the early stages. There's a lot of
it. Sure.
writing that's going to be
Yeah.
happening.
So the tunes have not been written yet.
Some have.
Okay.
Not the complete thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool because I haven't made much music as far as like going into a recording session since this thing has happened. So it's just another thing on the horizon to look forward to.
For sure. It's funny. I actually I got the chance to go into the studio
nice.
playing on a musical soundtrack, and what was interesting was it was done at Firehouse 12, which is where I normally record my stuff. And if you're familiar, they've got the booths like with the fucking they're like 70-pound doors or like 700-pound doors, and you have to like do all these COVID protocols, and they're like, well, actually, all the booths have independent air systems. So if anything, you're safer if you go into the isolation booth.
There you go.
So that was really reassuring to like take off my mask, even though I'm in a windowless room with other people. I was in a booth that had my own air supply. So it was like,
nice.
I was like, I guess I'm safer in here. So that was reassuring for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to hear about. Like, as much as we're facing some hardship right now, I'm so glad to hear that everybody's like got something they're working on.
Oh, dude, tons of albums are coming out next year. Tons.
I thought we were gonna be like totally decimated as far as any of this stuff for God knows how long.
We're more resilient than that. You know, because the very first pandemic would have taken us all out. I think it's
right.
I think I have no doubt that this will be over. I just get annoyed. My thing is that I get annoyed with the people that won't do the basic minimal effort to prevent it from getting from it being longer. You know what I mean? So there we have it, folks. Wear a fucking mask. Like, just fucking do it. Just do it. Don't fly in planes. I can rant and rave, but the setup I'm talking to you with, I got my Focusrite interface.
And,
my Shure mic. I mean, I bought, like everybody else, I bought some gear because I wanted to. I've got a lot of projects in mind. I've been. I actually started the process. I'm going to be going back into the studio soon. I think 2 times, not to make it awkward on the show, but I was going to ask you to be on one of the projects. So we'll talk more about that. Cause what I do is I do albums, and then I like to do EPs with maybe cats that like I work with a lot, but I don't get the chance to record with, so like my EP Black 13 was with like it's like with cats that I don't normally get to record with, so we and I like to reimagine some of my compositions, so it was a way to like re-record tunes, record them with new arrangements and new people, and you get a new tune out of it. So it's gonna be something like that. But yeah, I'm gonna go in and do a full length. Just started it, the planning process as well. Tunes are written, but I'm editing every day. I feel bad for the guys already. I'm like, oh, here's draft number 3 of this song. Sorry, but you see the little detail shifts and stuff, and you're like, nah, this works better if we turn this around, or no, that chord should be more like the and it is what it is. But it becomes I'm not hearing any complaints because I think people are just so excited to do stuff, and
absolutely.
I want to do like we've talked about avant-garde jazz a bunch, and I want to do like a solo trumpet album and just like go into the point the horn into the closet and just play some fucking weird shit. Put that out, So
yeah, I mean that's the cool thing about like, you know, we were talking about like Zoom concerts and stuff, and you know, I think people have the power to really start checking that stuff out, where they could, you know, yeah, have a concert from the living room.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's like that's great. That's great. You know, it's I, I've seen plenty of live streams, and everybody, you know, everybody's like really down to be doing what they're doing. You
yeah,
know,
no, it's
more
cool. I
power to
mean,
them.
what Smalls is doing, especially, like I was just watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was just watching. I watched a little bit of a Victor Lewis concert
Hmm.
pre-pandemic, like back in 2019. But then I watched.
Okay.
I'm always trying to catch like the shows they're putting on now, where
To keep
they
the
just
cats
started.
working. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they just started having like small audiences, which is really reassuring, But
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, way to rewind way back, like yeah, I've gotten savvier with GarageBand, and
Yep.
it's
Good. Good.
it's been fun to write the bass parts. I love that, they're pretty basic, but I love that I could put drum tracks in, and then it helps. It really helps fill in the blanks, because when you got that time, you got a track going, the tunes form works, and the melody works
Yeah.
and sounds clearer to you. If you're composing, just years past, it would be I play the chord with one hand, play the play the melody in my other,
Sure.
on the
Sure.
horn
Sure.
with my other hand, and just hope for the best, and hope that I'm not hearing an extra beat or two or something like that. And
Hmm.
instead, you lay down the track, you put the bass line you want, and then you go, okay, this is what the melody will sound like, and
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
what the harmony will sound like under it. It's been fun, and I'm sure there's going to be a shitload of lo-fi jazz gigs, jazz records, lo-fi jazz funk
Yep.
records next year. I'm going to listen to all of them.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have a tune called Social Distance. Everyone's going to have a tune
Yep.
called Quarantine, Lockdown, Dark Times. What's crazy is this new record I was telling you about. One of the tunes I picked is called Dark Times, and I always date my compositions. I'm neurotic like that. It's from
Sure.
2017, so it's definitely relating to the Donald Trump era, but it's 3 years before COVID. So holy shit, definitely puts things in
I
perspective.
know. I know, dude. It's you know, I know we don't like to talk about politics too much, but
It's
I
okay,
just
we can.
I'm so ready for like all of the um just the insanity to end. You
Yeah.
know, I'm just like that's my thing at this point. Like we're all being constantly battered by like what insane shit happened today. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well,
And it's like it's not healthy. It's not
no,
good.
it's certainly not, and it's so deafening that like, think about it. Yesterday was that, like, Rudy Giuliani getting caught like pulling his
That's
dick out or
tonight.
something.
That movie comes out
Oh,
tonight. I'm
nice.
having a watch
Oh, okay. Well,
party.
then
It's gonna
we'll
be
have to
great,
rent. We'll
man.
have to rent it. But like that
Yeah.
came, like that was news yesterday. I saw memes about it, and it's already like forgotten about. People
Yeah.
are already like moved
News
on. It's like,
cycle. Yeah.
holy shit! Look at this screenshot. Like this guy. Like, come on. I don't know what
Insane.
it is, man. I don't mind being shocked with the bullshit. I just wish. I think what upsets me is that it just doesn't last. It doesn't last for more than a day.
No.
Dude,
No.
we found out that Trump doesn't pay taxes like only 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And that's when he got
Right.
COVID. Oh, it makes you're right. We have this goldfish in a bowl memory, attention
Yeah.
span. And it's like we got nothing else going on. Oh shit. The I'm watching. So I got bald eagles that live in the marsh behind me, and
Very cool.
the windows on the other side of the computer. And I just watched it like swoop down. I just feel like I should be
Nice.
saluted. Yeah, I've got like
Yeah.
there's like a nesting of bald eagles behind my house, and every time they fly by, I just like pause and reflect patriotically. It's
Very
like,
cool.
I feel like I'm watching a Budweiser commercial or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
but uh, but yeah, first off, glad to hear Brooke's doing well. Glad to hear she's busy. Glad to hear you
Yeah.
guys are doing your thing. Yeah, I think a lot of us are learning the technology side. I've always hated it. Whenever I've recorded a record, I usually ask. Normally, Zwart and Kasiba are on my records. I
Hmm.
greatly depend on them to be there in the mastering process, because I don't know what it is. I have no patience for it. As long as it has a baseline adjective of it sounds good, I'm cool with it. And
Sure.
it makes me happy to know that that's how Sonny Rollins felt about recording. Apparently, he hated it very much. So I'm glad that Kasiba and Zwart are very meticulous, and they will go in track by track and point things out to me, because I won't do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's almost like two schools of thought. There's people who are like, "Yep, you get 2 takes of each, and you get what you get," unless it's like disastrous. And then there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, meticulous, like the fine details, and the both are good, I think, to some extent, because nobody likes. I mean, not that nobody likes it, but being in the studio for hours and hours and hours and hours is like the mental endurance required for like an 8-hour recording thing.
When you're like
it's
living
hard,
there,
man.
yeah. When you're like living at the studio, I don't find that fun at all. I just don't.
It's rough. It's rough.
When it comes to recording a track, I usually do 3. Like, if you can't, aside from like false takes, or false starts or something, if I'm not pleased by the 3rd time around, it's like, okay, let's go do something else, because every solo I play after that is going to be less inspired, less, it's going to be like, oh, I liked this lick I played in my second chorus from the first take. Let me see if I could pop that back in. And before you know it, you got another shitty take. So it's like, so after 3, okay, let's come back to it. We'll do something else, and we'll come back to that tune. I mean, that's the thing with recording, is like, you just got to be so forgiving. A lot of times I have to I don't really deeply listen, because I'll get really critical. And I'll be like, nope, chip that note. Chipped one note, in a 10, 12-minute song. Chipped it. Let's do it again, or I didn't like how that landed. No, let's do it. Forget it. I'll never get done. So I have to do them, go by the gut, and then move on there,
Absolutely.
But no, that's cool, man. When that's declassified, I want to hear about this project for sure.
Sure. Yeah. It's not my, my baby, but
yeah, sure.
When I can, I will let you know. Definitely.
So I got to ask you now, are you excited for The Mandalorian season 2?
Hell yeah. But I am more excited. For the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show.
I know, we've talked about this. You're what? How old are you? You're like 12 years my junior. Like oh my god, dude! I get older and they stay the same age. So, I first met you. Were still in high school when I first met you. And,
I was like 15 or 16.
Yeah. So first off, it's been really great to see you mature as a musician. It's really fucking it's really fucking cool. I'm not surprised we're friends. I think when I reflect on the years that have gone by since the first time you started showing up at like my gigs or my jam sessions and stuff, like I'm not surprised by that. And I remember we went on the road 2 years ago now. Jesus. And I was like, yeah, like it makes like that's a dude I can spend the car rides with. It's like I won't kill him for sure.
Yeah, we didn't kill each other, which was nice.
But we've talked about we're both huge Star Wars fans, but we differ in our eras of Star Wars lore, because you are younger. The prequels came out when you were much younger than me. I was nearly a grown man by the time the episode 3 came out, and I don't have the same connection to that era as you do. And and every time we talk about it, I'm like, I know, I get you, Ryan, but once you read Heir to the Empire, you have a different perspective on things. And for anyone who doesn't know, Heir to the Empire was the original episode 7, 8, and 9. So if you can imagine, instead of The Force Awakens, it was Heir to the Empire. It had Luke, Leia, Han, Lando, Chewie. The whole shebang was, the whole team was back. And that was like the first time we got new Star Wars. And it came out like early 90s. I remember getting action figures when I was a kid, but I didn't read the books till I got older. So my love has always been in this post Return of the Jedi world, which is where the Mandalorian exists.
Right.
But you being a little boy when the prequels were out, love the prequels and love Obi-Wan Kenobi. And every time we talk about Star Wars, you always say Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So is it happening? Because I feel like between all the fan art, I can't tell if it's just people wishing it's going to happen or is it going to happen? So it is happening.
It's happening, yeah. So they don't start filming until next year.
Okay.
So we had thought for a long time that it might be out by next year, but COVID stopped production of basically everything.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like they put everything on hold. So, but it's Ewan McGregor, right? Who's who I think does not get enough credit. Like he's a great Obi-Wan, but he's in Train Spotting. Great.
Oh
movie
yeah,
about,
I just watched Dr. Sleep. He was great in it.
Yep, Dr. Sleep. Yeah. He was just in. He's in Big Fish, which I forget who.
I remember that. Yeah, I think I went on a date.
Good.
I think I took a girl to.
Yeah, it's kind of a date. It's kind of a date movie.
Yeah.
But he's a good actor, man. He's a really talented actor,
sure.
and like, man, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi for Halloween, probably like from the year 2000 to the year like 2008. Every year.
Man, you know why I'm jealous to hear that is because when I was a kid, it wasn't cool to like Star Wars, and I feel like there were no Star Wars costumes like in the 90s. I'm sure in the 80s when the movies were still pretty fresh, people were dressing up, but when I was a kid, man, like you hid that stuff. That was there were two things I did not let the outside world know. One was I was in the Scouts, and the other was I loved Star Wars. Like I felt like you just don't tell people.
That's so funny.
And now you flaunt it, and it's like completely unfair. That I could have been Jedi, Return of the Jedi Luke. Like nothing would have made me happier to wear all black, have a green lightsaber, and one black glove. That would have been the fucking shit.
Right.
Unreal.
Yeah, it's funny now. It's like being a dork is like it's cool.
Oh yeah, I mean? And I've ranted about this many times. It's like everything that I hid from society is now like flaunted in my face. And it's like, I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt now. It's like, I would go home and change into this shirt. Like, you weren't caught dead with something like this. I think I got this at Target.
Yeah, I mean, I remember kids giving me shit for liking Star Wars. Like, just the mention of the name. You say Star Wars.
Oh,
people are like, ooh, but it's like...
Especially girls. Girls didn't want to talk to you if you like Star Wars.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man, but it was like, it's been me and I have two brothers, and we're like... Right. That was like, kids grew up watching Disney Channel. We put Star Wars on the tape in the VCR, and we had our toy lightsabers, and we would lightsaber fight to John Williams' Duel of the Fates while they're fighting Darth Maul.
Yeah, right.
That was like what we did, and
right.
And don't get me wrong, Luke Skywalker is the coolest character in Star Wars, but Obi-Wan is my favorite. You see what I
have to argue with you again. Because it's Han Solo who's the coolest character in Star Wars.
He's slick.
It's Han, Lando, then Luke, probably. But real quick before I forget, that the guy that played Wedge is Ewan McGregor's uncle. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is. It's completely strange. It's like totally possible, completely strange, but kind of like unrelated. Like it doesn't matter. It's not like they were on screen together at the same time.
Right.
It is pretty cool.
Exactly.
Kind of weird space fantasy nepotism there, I guess.
I know.
So, well, for your sake, I do hope. I mean, believe me, I will watch a Obi-Wan Kenobi, lone wolf type show, which is basically what Mandalorian is. That's what I love about it. Is I'm a huge. I love spaghetti westerns. I love the idea of the Man with No Name trilogy kind of stuff. Right. And and over quarantine, I started to explore the movies that inspired those spaghetti westerns, which are all these like samurai films from the 50s. One's called Samurai, but then like Lone Wolf and Cub. I actually didn't know what that was for the longest time. And I remember when The Mandalorian came out, I was like, holy shit. They took Star Wars and made it into a spaghetti western. This is the greatest thing ever. And everybody was like, bro, it's Lone Wolf and Cub. I had no idea what that was. No idea. And I was like, no, he's the Mando is the man with no name. Like that's what it is. And did a little digging and discovered Yojimbo, which is have you ever seen A Fistful of Dollars? Mm-mm. Okay, so A Fistful of Dollars is the classic. Clint Eastwood is the man with no name. It's the Western where basically like his big break they came out in the 60s and stuff, but that movie is basically beat for beat this Japanese samurai movie from the 50s called Yojimbo, and it's like the same story. And I guess copyright was not as ironclad as it is in the States, so he was basically able to steal the story and make a Western version of it. Another great example is the Magnificent Seven.
Oh, of course.
The classic with Yul Brynner. That is based on the Seven Samurai. Same concept. Town is under strife by vigilantes and stuff, and this team gets recruited and hired to defend the town. And it's in the original. It's these seven samurai that defend this town. In the 60s, it becomes these seven cowboys. It's so fucking neat how things influence like that. But that's what I love about Mandalorian is it had that Western vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we're due for a real Western renaissance. There's some random cool Westerns on Netflix with surprisingly A-list actors in them, and a lot of times they're not advertised at all. There's one with Christian Bale. What's that one called? Oh, shit. There's one with Fassbender called Slow West, I believe. And they're like all like you blink and you miss them if you're looking at Netflix because you don't even know, but they're great. It's just a genre that has always interested me, and when it's mixed with Star Wars, you're just in for a good ride, because I feel like Star Wars being a fantasy, it's almost like if you were to put Star Wars into the medieval times, it would fit very well, but you would never think to make it into a Western, or never think to put it into like a different genre like that, Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could talk about this shit all fucking day,
Right. Yeah. Star Wars super fan and all that.
But yeah, just in time for Halloween, we'll have the Mandalorian. So I'm really
excited. It's gonna be. Isn't that like next couple days? Right?
Yeah, it's next week, man. I can't believe it.
Nice.
Yeah, we're coming up in the end. So it's just another month of quarantine, but at least there's more to look forward to with the holiday season, I suppose. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be in a state where we can visit some family and stuff like that. That's what I want to do.
I know, man. I'm just glad that all the clubs I work are still open, and I'm hoping when we can have that jam again. Because you were I was talking to Rose about this, and Larry as well. You're a regular at Three Sheets, and you saw what it was like those last few weeks.
Yeah.
Before we had to shut down, you couldn't even walk around. I mean, talk about, you couldn't even get on a tune half the time because there's so many people there. And we'll get back to it. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah. I'm glad we've, in one way or another, we've been able to continue doing this. And that's the other thing too, is I think a lot of people have, been like picking up side hustles and stuff like that to help get them through such a difficult moment. Sure. And that is like, man, you're doing you're being a man, or a great woman. You're doing what you got to do.
Being an adult.
You're being thank you. You're being an adult. Yeah. You're being an adult. And I was like, oh man, like, should I just like become a construction worker or something for a second, but it seems like the light at the end of the tunnel, while it's dim, it's there. And these things are kind of getting us there. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people who have picked up other work, and I think that's that's good, man. You gotta keep doing doing your thing to make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But you're going into education, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm very excited for you for that. I think you're the right man for the job. I think you got.
I hope so.
I think you got a good temperament to jazz drum by night and teach hot cross buns by day. It takes a certain kind of person to be able to do that, because believe me, I can't tell you how many times my second graders are working on some activity that helps them learn the notes on the staff, and while they're working, I'm playing Blue Train in the background just to keep my sanity, because it's a tough gig, but it's a very rewarding gig, and you'll find that it balances
it definitely balances the performer side of you.
Sure.
You know.
Well, I think beyond that, like, sorry to interrupt, but beyond that, man, basically all musicians are educators in one form or another. Even if you take guys like, there might be a couple, right? If we take dudes like, I don't know, like Pat Metheny, right? Like a dude who is like, at his level of commercial status.
Yeah.
Like he's a very rare example. But all the great musicians, all of them either teach in one form or another, either at a public school or a college, or teach privately. It's part of the package. It's part of the deal.
It is.
So why not pursue it now?
There's only like, man, I say this all the time. There's only like five jazz musicians in the world who aren't educators.
Right.
So,
and if they're not doing that, then they probably have like they have a side hustle. They have a side gig. They have something to keep the bread coming in.
I know I've said this to you before, but my favorite story is that Kenny Dorham was a mailman, and it's like, you got to do what you got to do sometimes,
Yeah.
But
McCoy Tyner driving a cab.
Yeah, but I guarantee, in between fairs and in between mailboxes, those cats were running ideas in their head. They were thinking about it in a very Zen-like fashion, just visualizing the notes on the staff and just doing their thing, and that's fine too.
Yeah,
because then you go to the instrument eager, and you go ready to work, and you don't sit down with the axe and then check your phone. You sit down and focus on just doing that. And
I think part of it will be. Here, I gotta grab my charger, but you can still hear me.
It's okay.
I think part of that will be finding the balance between like you're doing your work in the day, and then because we have to get hours in practicing. That's just like part of the deal. Is getting hours in. So but it'll just be like anything else. It'll be just like playing Dungeons and Dragons. It'll be just like watching movies or playing video games, exercise, whatever you do. It's just another step to finding the balance. My cat, sorry, screaming.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But so I'm excited. It's a new step for me. I mean, I teach privately now, but I think for me this is a good move, and for maybe for a lot of people it's a good move. I don't know. I'm just it's something to try, and so I'm excited. Hopefully by the spring we'll be on that track.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Who knows though? If things could change. Things could change like pretty quickly as they did.
As they did. Yes.
Yeah.
So all right, man.
So
thanks for dropping by the virtual studio. This has been a very fast hour talk, and you and I can always bullshit for hours. So it's very appreciative of your time, and thanks for coming on, and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. But thanks for sharing your insight, and when new projects come out, please let us know that, and we'll have you back on the show. We could talk about your where you are in the future from now, which is a little paradoxical to say, but you get it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll catch Ryan Hamme, I should say. I always say that wrong.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Right.
We will catch Ryan Hamme, drummer and educator and future public school teacher. We'll see on the flip side. So thanks so much for coming in, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right. It's always so good to talk to a good friend in this time, and I know I keep harping on that, but it really is. And thank you to Ryan, and I have a lot more. I have more interviews scheduled with friends, not only colleagues but friends, and it's just it's food for the soul. If you listen to this conversation, the one with Jared, the one with Dan, the one with Rose, I think you're starting to get it. This is how I'm getting through a quarantine. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that conversation. I had a good time putting together the episode, I should say. So awkward, man. It's so weird. like the monologue stuff is definitely, it's like when you catch yourself talking to yourself in the mirror, to the millionth degree. I don't know if I should have admitted that, but I guess that's like what it's closest to. Do we all do that? We all talk to ourselves, right? Like, I think that's a sign of either like being a lunatic or being super smart, maybe both, There is a fine line between crazy and smart, I guess. So anyway, I hope you guys had a good time on this episode and keep tuning in. Please support the podcast, support the NHJU as we prepare to rise like the phoenix that we are. So until next time, this has been Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria. Thank you so much for tuning in. See ya.